time on the testimony of former FBI Director James Comey. Just a few hours ago, she echoed her father's talking points, saying the fired FBI director delivered a big win by confirming the president, she says, confirming what Comey said, that he was not under investigation in the Russia probe. Directly listen to Ivanka Trump.
Well, my father felt very vindicated in all the statements that he's been making and feels incredibly optimistic.
But Ivanka Trump's remarks, pretty measured, in stark contrast to the president's latest broadside attack on Comey. Let's go to Jason Carroll. He's in Washington with more. Good morning.
And good morning to you, Poppy. You know, the president is back to name-calling. The president not only suggested that James Comey acted illegally when he leaked his notes about their conversations. In a tweet, he called the act of leaking it, quote, cowardly. Comey testified the president asked him to let the investigation to former National Security Advisor Mike Flynn go. Trump denies that, although his son, Donald Trump Jr., appeared to contradict that denial in a TV interview. Also, in a separate situation, former U.S. Attorney General Preet Bharara says he, too, had somewhat of an uncomfortable interaction with the president before he was let go. Bharara says that Trump called him in December, and it appeared to him, at least, that Trump was trying to cultivate some sort of a relationship between the two. Bharara says that he was fired after he did not return another call from Trump. As for Trump's interaction with Comey, there have been calls from both sides of the aisle for Trump to turn over any tapes if the White House has them. There have been a number of GOP lawmakers who say, let the tapes do the talking. As you know, that there have been a number of people who say the president should stop talking about Comey. And as you also know, the special counsel, Robert Mueller, is in the process of completing his investigation, although Trump's legal team not able to rule out the possibility that the president could end up firing Mueller.
He could do so through ordering Rosenstein to do that. Jason Carroll in Washington for us. Thank you very much. Let's discuss all of this. A lot to get to this Monday morning. Susan Page is here, the Washington bureau chief for USA Today. Alex Burns, CNN political analyst and national political reporter for the New York Times, and David Drucker, CNN political analyst and senior congressional correspondent for the Washington Examiner. Good morning to you all. Nice to have you here. Let me begin with you, Susan. Let's just listen to a fellow Republican of the president, Susan Collins, when she was asked about these tapes. Listen.
He should give a straight yes or no to the answer to the question of whether or not the tapes exist, and he should voluntarily turn them over not only to the Senate Intelligence Committee but to the special counsel. So I don't think a subpoena should be necessary, and I don't understand why the president just doesn't clear this matter up once and for all.
To be clear again, Susan, that's from his fellow Republicans saying, you know, just tell us, are there tapes, are there not? What do you think the political calculation is from the White House on this one right now? Why leave it so murky, to say the least?
Well, that is always a tough question when it comes to thinking about the strategy that President Trump may be following. I mean, he is leaving it kind of out there, but he faces a demand from the House a request from the House Intelligence Committee to produce these tapes by next week, by June 23rd. And I think every expectation is that he will provide an answer by then about whether there are tapes. And I think that the assumption now is that there are not tapes, given the president's comment on Friday, when he said to reporters, you're going to be disappointed when you get the answer. I can tell you we would not be disappointed if the answer was there were tapes. The disappointing answer would be there are not tapes that would definitively resolve who's telling the truth between James Comey and Donald Trump.
So, David, there seems to be new Republican leadership strategy from some on the Russia probe and how to message it. Okay, you have them attacking Mueller. Let me put up a tweet this morning from Newt Gingrich, former House Speaker. Republicans are delusional if they think the special counsel is going to be fair. Look who he is hiring. Check FEC reports. Time to rethink. This is a guy who a few weeks ago John McCain said was a great choice for special counsel. Jason Chaffetz, also a Republican, called him someone with impeccable credentials. Senator Richard Burr was very complimentary of him. Why go after Mueller, who served under Bush and Obama?
So there's a difference between Trump partisans off the Hill and Republicans and Republican leaders on the Hill. And I don't think you're going to see anybody on the Hill on the Republican side, except for a few fringe members, go after Robert Mueller, because they know that his integrity is unimpeachable. And it actually hurts their case to
but
try
Newt Gingrich knows that too. So
but
why do it?
But Newt Gingrich is an off-the-hill Trump partisan who likes to be provocative and is sending the sort of message that I think we're going to see emerging from the Trump right out in the ether, which is let's get Mueller and let's undercut him. And I think that it's only a matter of time, given the patterns we've seen before Trump himself begins to tweet, sort of asking questions about Mueller in an effort to send a message to his base that whatever this man finds, it's not to be trusted.
So, Alex, staying on the Russia beat for just a moment, the fact that Attorney General Jeff Sessions said in this open letter that we all have a copy of, I was going to go in front of these House and Senate subcommittees to talk about something totally different, but all these reports that they're going to ask me about the Russia probe, since I recused myself, I'm going to send Rosenstein to do that instead, and then he's going to testify in front of the Senate Intel Committee, maybe publicly, maybe behind closed doors. Increasing concern on Capitol Hill from some lawmakers that is to avoid public testimony on Russia. How do you see it?
Look, I think that you have to interpret the way that Jeff Sessions is approaching this within the context of him being a much more conventional politician than virtually anybody else we're talking about in these Russia probes, right? He was a career politician, the definition, basically, of a career politician. And the fact that he's now serving in the Trump administration doesn't necessarily change that. So this is a guy who's been under fire the last few weeks from within the White House, from within the administration, and from without. After the Comey testimony last week, and what a conventional politician would do under these circumstances, if they feel they have nothing to hide, is go out and try to clear their own name, right? And that's something that, Republicans in general, we just heard Susan Collins say, I don't understand why the president wouldn't just simply put some of these questions to rest. If you're Jeff Sessions and you feel that you can put the questions to rest, there's no reason why you wouldn't do it.
And substantively, we should understand, substantively, Jeff Sessions and Donald Trump were aligned, but temperamentally, they could not be more different.
Well, certainly the reporting that Sessions, offered to recuse himself. He did resign. Because the president was getting in the way of him being able to do his job as Attorney General with all of these statements and all of these tweets. Something that really struck us over the weekend, Susan, and that is what another Republican, Senator Lindsey Graham, said about the president and needing to keep his mouth and his tweets limited. Listen.
And I don't think what was said amounts to obstruction of justice. Now, what the president did was inappropriate, but here's what's so frustrating for Republicans like me. You may be the first president in history to go down because you can't stop inappropriately talking about an investigation that, if you just were quiet, would clear you.
Susan?
So, this is something you're really beginning to hear from more Republicans on the Hill privately, which is the bigger threat to Donald Trump's presidency is not the Russia investigation. It's the way he's handling it, it's the way he's responding, and his tendency towards self-inflicted wounds and provocative tweets that do not serve his interest, not his political interest, and over the long haul, perhaps not his legal interest either. So we're hearing more and more warning signs from people like Senator Graham and from Ari Fleischer, the former White House press secretary, and from others saying, please change the manner in which you're responding to this very serious matter.
From an increasing number of Republicans, I will say just one observation with no real I don't know if this is the case, but when he didn't tweet a lot, guys? That's when he was those 9-10 days overseas on that trip. And guess who was by his side the whole time? Melania Trump. And she is now living in the White House, by the way. She just moved in with Barron over the weekend. So maybe we will see a few limits to the president's tweets. We'll see. David, let me get your read on this, just staying on the beat of Republicans criticizing the president. You have what Lindsey Graham said over the weekend that we just played. You have Senator James Lankford of Oklahoma saying that his interactions with Comey after he heard Comey testify were, quote, very inappropriate. You have Susan Collins saying, release the tapes, and we want to know more, questioning the president. And you have Senator Mike Lee of Utah about Comey's testimony saying, quote, he doesn't strike me as someone who would lie under oath. Is this a problem for the White House? These are all Republican senators.
Well, of course it's a problem, and I think what Republicans are trying to say subtly is cut it out. The Republicans on the Hill have nothing to gain by taking Trump down because the voters are not going to reward them for moving against the president. On the other hand, they need to walk this line of not completely endorsing all of this behavior because they don't know where the investigation is going to go, because that could be equally detrimental to them. And so I think, they're trying to support the president where they can, but where they feel they need to send a message, because privately they are very, very concerned, they're trying to do that. I thought Lindsey Graham's comment was very prescient. What he's trying to tell the president is, I don't think you did anything wrong, but the way you are, and he's trying to encourage him by saying that. I don't believe you did anything wrong.
This is, of course, after the president said on Friday, 100% in response to Jonathan Karl's question, I am willing to testify under oath, come in front of Congress, which I think had his lawyers saying, why would you offer that up? Yes.
And look, you know, that comment from Lindsey Graham, I think, was a little bit cute, in that there are plenty of Republicans who are actually deeply concerned that something that was inappropriate and potentially illegal did happen, right? But the way they are framing their conversation about the investigation in order to be safe within a partisan context is to say, look, Bob Mueller's the only one with the credibility to clear you. The fact that they may privately have grave concerns about whether Mueller will clear the president is kind of irrelevant to them at this point. If they can just sort of get through a short-term conversation about the investigation and then let that investigation go where it's going to go.
All right, guys, thank you very much.